Hello, my name is Darren Woodfork, and I'm an attorney here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And today I'm going to be talking about Arizona's new motion to seal law that allows you to seal your old criminal cases here in Arizona. This law started about 3 years ago now. I think it was like January of 2023. And since then, here in my office, I've been filing probably about 60 or 70 motions over the last 3 years. And so today I want to talk about kind of like the process of like the big picture process of basically how it works here in Arizona. And so again, my name is Darren Woodfork, and I'm an attorney here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And here's today we're going to talk about the motion to seal. So basically, the big picture, anyway, here's like kind of like the 7 steps, 6 or 7 steps for you to file the motion to seal here. And the first thing you'll need to do is to get a copy of your conviction. Basically, you want to know how many cases, if you have more than one, you want to know which cases you have in the system and what cases you're going to be filing to seal because you might have more than one case that's in the system that you need to have sealed. So you want to know, make sure which cases those are. So that's the first thing you need to do, is just find out which convictions you have out there in the system. The second thing you need to do is you'll have to get what's called like your automatic your absolute discharge from probation, or when you got out of DOC, you got out of prison, DOC. You'll have to get that stuff too. And then when you get all that stuff, you file it with the court. There are what's called like self-service forms in the courts that you can use to file the motions to seal on your own. And I'll get into that a little bit later if you want to do it on your own without a lawyer. Um, but you get one of those forms and you fill it out, and then you submit everything to the court with, like I said, for that form to seal your case. Now, once you do that, you're going to have to serve the prosecutor's office. You're going to have to let the prosecutor know that you've filed a motion to seal that old case. And so you'll have to figure out how to do that. You probably just call the prosecutor's office and get like an email or a fax from them to send over a copy of the motion. That's probably the way to do it. As lawyers, we basically file these we do e-filing, and then once we file it with the court, it's CC'd to the prosecutor's office, so we don't have to worry about contacting the prosecutor directly. But anyway, so that's the next thing you need to do. The next thing you have to do is basically wait until you get a response from the prosecutor's office. Sometimes the prosecutors will object to the motion to seal. And if they do, then you're going to have to respond to that. The court's going to want a response from you. And then after that, you just basically wait until you get the order from the judge, either granting or denying your motion to seal, and that's it. So that's kind of like I said, the big picture part of, the story here in Arizona to seal your old criminal case. Now, you might want to know, or you should want to know, I should say, what court do you file your motion to seal your case in? And you have to file the motion in the court of your conviction. And it has to be the Arizona court of your conviction. Basically, Arizona's motion to seal law only applies to cases that came out of Arizona. And so if you have a case where it's out of another state in the country, Arizona's law is not going to apply. Even if you live in Arizona now, you can't use Arizona's motion to seal law to seal your old case out of state. So basically, this law only applies to cases coming out of Arizona. Likewise, if you have a case out of Arizona, but you live in, Virginia right now, you can file the motion to seal that Arizona case, even though you live in another state in Virginia or whatever. So basically, you have to file it in Arizona, and you have to file it in the particular court. If it's a felony case, you're going to file it in the particular county court that your case is out of, whether that's Maricopa County, Pima County, Coconino County, whatever county that your case is from. You have to file the motion to seal in that specific county. Also, if you've only been arrested, and Arizona's motion to seal law applies to if you've been arrested but not charged, if you've been arrested, charged, and the charge was dropped, or if you've been arrested, charged, and convicted, Arizona's motion to seal law applies to all of those different cases. So if you've only been arrested but not charged with anything, and you want to seal that old arrest record, then you're going to have to go to the county of basically the county of where you're arrested, and you're going to file a motion to seal the old arrest, but it's going to be a civil filing here in Arizona. It's not going to be a criminal filing. It's going to be a civil filing because there's going to be no court number. There's no case number because you were never in the system in the first place. You're just arrested by the police. And so you'll have to file a civil filing to get that arrest sealed here in Arizona. You have to do all the civil requirements as far as like using the cover letter, filing, making 3 copies for the judge and the administrative office and all that stuff. All those particular civil requirements you'll have to do. And so that's it. And then also, if you have multiple cases, if you have more than one case, you're going to have to file the motion to seal each of those cases. If you want your record to show that you have no convictions, you'll have to file a motion to seal each of those criminal cases in each of the counties. So if you have a case in Pima County and in Maricopa County, you have to file them both. You have to file a separate motion in both counties. So that's where you file the court here, the motion to seal the specific courts. Now, the required documents that you need to sign, I talked about this in the very beginning as far as, there's a form down there that you can fill out and you file it, but there's more to it, I should say, as far as what you need to kind of attach to those files. One of the things you have to file, again, like I said before, is proof of your automatic discharge or your absolute discharge from DOC. Most people, it's going to be when you're discharged from probation. Most people got off probation and they got an absolute discharge or termination from probation. You'll need proof of that, and kind of that shows that you've also did another requirement here, and that is you have all your fines are paid. All your fines, court fees, restitution, all those things have to be paid all those things have to be paid, to give yourself the best chance of getting the motion to seal granted. And so you want proof of that. And then again, if you're a probation officer terminated your probation, then normally you've paid all your fines and restitution and everything like that. Now, there is an exception in the law, or what I think is an exception in the law, and that is basically you have to have completed your probation, you have to have done all that, you did your jail time, prison time, whatever, community service, you have to have done all that. But the law does kind of carve out that you don't have to have all your restitution paid and your what they call monetary obligations paid off before you file the motion to seal. But it's good to have it done because that'll give yourself the best chance for the judge granting the motion. So just those are the things that you need to attach to your form as far as what when you file the motion, all the other requirements that are that go on to it. And then some courts here in Arizona, not Maricopa County, but some courts like I think Coconino County, La Paz County, a few other counties up north, they want you to submit a proposed order when you file your motion. Basically, a proposed order is essentially you've already written out the judge's decision saying that I hereby find that I grant the motion or deny the motion. You draft that and you give that to the judge, and all they have to do is sign it. That's what a proposed order is. And some courts require a proposed order when you file the motion to seal. And then again, as I mentioned before, when you file the motion to seal, you have to make sure that the prosecutor is notified that you're trying to seal this case. The prosecutors, under the law, basically the prosecutor has to have an opportunity to notify any victims in the old case. They have the opportunity to go back into the old case to see what it was about and see if they believe that you should have your motion, your case sealed. But anyway, so they have to know about it. You have to let them know that you're doing this. And then sometimes they respond. Most of the time they don't. Most of the time they take no position on the motion to seal. Usually they'll just leave it up to the judge. They'll say that judge, we'll just leave it up to you and your discretion to grant it or deny it. Usually they don't object. I haven't seen many cases where they objected. I have known just kind of out there, they say that when people have lawyers, most of the time the prosecutor doesn't object. If they don't have lawyers and they try to file it on their own, the prosecutor may object. That's just what I've heard out in the public anyway. So anyways, but you have to make sure the prosecutor gets your motion. And like I said earlier, you probably just call them and ask them how to send them a copy of the motion. If you have a lawyer who's doing this, like I said, we file these cases on the e-file service on the Arizona court system, and when we file it, we CC the prosecutors to make sure that they get it. And so you don't have to worry about that. And then that kind of goes into what I was saying, well, just 2 seconds ago. Do you need a lawyer? I mean, do you need a lawyer to file a motion to seal here in Arizona? Short answer is no, you don't. If you have a old drug case, a possession of marijuana case, something like that from 20 years ago, and you want to get that case sealed, you don't need a lawyer. You can file it on your own. All you have to do is probably file the form, and that's it. There's really nothing more to it in a simple case like that. If you have any other cases, if you have more than one felony case, or if you have a more serious felony case in like your basic drug case, you might want a lawyer just because you don't want to file a motion to get it denied. Because if it's denied, one, under the law, you'll have to wait 3 years to refile, to try again, essentially, if your motion to seal is denied. And then after that, and again, I'm not sure if it's, with these motion to seal laws, but I remember back in the day, if you had a motion to restore your gun rights anyway, if you were denied previously and then 3 years later you tried to refile for your gun rights, you always had kind of like a 50% less chance of getting it granted just because the judge would see that previously it was denied. And so even though it was like in the first denial, in those cases anyway, it was always kind of like, we're denying it because it hasn't had enough time hasn't went by. And so they would basically say, they would kind of insinuate that you need to wait more time. So then the clients waited 30 more years or whatever, refiled, and it was still denied. Just because, again, it seems like once there's a earlier denial, there's going to be a second denial. And again, that's just kind of anecdotal from filing these cases. The gun case, anyway, I haven't seen it happen in the motion to seal case because the 3 year waiting period probably I guess, is just passed right now. If you filed a motion to seal when it was first started on January 1st of 2023, I guess 3 years would be January 1st, 2026. So maybe now people might start trying to file motions to redo it. But again, you're going to be less likely. So anyways, but my point is, if you want to just hire a lawyer and to have it done right the first time, you don't have to worry about any of that stuff as far as refiling. And then and also the lawyer can help you kind of, first of all, kind of evaluate your chances of success. Basically, look at the case, look at what the charge was, look at your dismissed cases, your dismissed counts. also in the system to see what the judge is going to look at when you file your motion. You know, when they go back into the file and see what cases, what your charges were, what charges were dropped, what charges you were convicted of, whether or not the judge will grant your motion or will likely grant your motion or not. Your lawyer can tell you kind of what your chances are when you file that. And then also, if the, like I said previously, if the prosecutor objects to the motion and says that, you know, for whatever reason they don't, they are objecting to you getting your case sealed, then your lawyer can respond to their objection and say why they're wrong and tell the court to grant the motion to seal. Um, and then the final thing I'll say, just again in my experience of seeing people who filed their motion on their own and got them denied, one of the big things is that you don't want to talk to. I mean, there's some things you want to tell the judge. Like I said, sometimes you want to write like a character letter to the judge, but there's some things you don't want to put in the in the letter because it'll just completely turn the judge off. And since they have complete discretion to grant or deny these motions, they will deny it if you put stuff in the motion that shouldn't be there. Um, and that's kind of like, you know, I guess I'll talk about that in that you don't want to put in the letter or in your character letters, whether you write a character letter, whether you have your family write a character letter or coworkers, anything like that. You don't want anybody talking about the actual old case. That's basically the biggest no-no when it comes to filing a motion to seal your case. I mean, you don't want to tell the judge, I want my old case sealed because I didn't do it back then, 15 years ago. You don't want to say any of that stuff. You don't want to talk about any of the actual facts of the case. And so, you know, a lawyer can tell you, you know, stay away from that. So what to put in there, what to not put in in those character letters. So anyway, so that's that as far as you know, if you should hire a lawyer or not. Like I say, you don't need to hire a lawyer. You don't have to you don't have to have a lawyer to file these motions of seal here in Arizona. And which leads me to another point, which is good about the law is, you know, you don't need a lawyer and there's no fee. It's free. It's free to file a motion to seal your old case in Arizona. That was explicitly talked about in the law when they were creating it back in 2022. They didn't want to have like money being you know, to stop people from filing the motion to seal. And so it is free to file the motion to seal here in Arizona. There may be some incidental costs though when it comes to filing. You might have to you might have to pay like $40 to get your FBI background check, you know, privately, essentially. You have to get it to find out kind of what your cases are in the system. Also, there might be a fee for getting copies of your court records. There might be a small fee for getting, like, if your case is super old, if it's like from like 1990, you might need to get a letter saying that there's no record of that file anymore. And so that might cost a small fee also. So there might be some incidental costs when it comes to filing motion to seal. But again, the actual filing the motion to seal, there's no cost. Unlike, like I said, yeah, normal filing in the criminal court system or civil court system, there's enormous fees for filing almost anything, but not in these cases. And then finally, I'll talk about the timing on how long it takes. You know, a lot of people ask me, you know, when they hire me, they're like, okay, now that we're going to do this, can you give me an idea of how long it's going to take to get a decision? Right now in Maricopa County, anyway, it's about 6 to 8 months to get a decision. In other counties, it's a little bit faster. I'll call it maybe 3 months, maybe 4 months when you file a motion to seal. The reason why, the real reason why, is that there's so many cases in the system. Once the law started, everybody started filing motion to seals. And also, people started filing motion. A lot more people started filing their motion to restore their gun rights. You know, I do a lot of that here in my office. I would say probably 70% of the restoration cases I do are filing for gun rights here in Arizona. So the court has kind of like a separate division of the courts that do all these restoration cases, and it's super backed up. And so, at least in Maricopa, it's super backed up. So that's why it takes so long. And then also the under the law, when you file your motion to seal, there has to be like a 60-day waiting period so that the prison system and the prosecutor's office can re can to respond. And so again, I mean, literally when you file the motion, you go to it'll take about a month basically to get to the assigned judge. Once the judge gets it, then they let the prosecutor's office know, they let the financial division know, they let the prison system know, all that stuff. And they say, hey, look, this person's filing a motion to seal their old case. What do you think? The judge will give them usually 60 days to respond. And so, and after 60 days, if they don't respond, the judge will go ahead and rule without their input. And so that's kind of why, because in the law, it basically says they have 60 days. So that's why it's out there like that. Or that's why it takes so long, I should say. But anyways, that's the timeline. So if you do file it, kind of think maybe 60 days is probably about the right time for you to get a decision. So anyways, so that's it. That's the big picture of Arizona's motion to seal law. It's like I said before, it's a fantastic law here in Arizona. Once you file the motion and it's granted, it allows you to walk into any employer, to any loan application, all that stuff. And basically, you can say that you've never been convicted of a crime. If there's ever a box that says, have you been convicted of a crime? You can say no. And so that's the best thing about this law. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you want to get in touch with my law firm, you can get in touch with my firm at my email, which is darrenw@msn.com. That's DERRONW@msn.com. I'll leave a link here, obviously, in the description. And if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out. My website is woodforklaw.com. That's WOODFORK law.com. And I have a ton of information on my site about this new law and a motion to restore gun rights also here in Arizona. So anyways, thanks for watching. Please like the video and please subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks.